as we begin to create more coherence in the brain, more coherence in the heart, you're creating a very profound laser, a Wi-Fi signal that can allow you to read information. You can't read it if you're separate. You can't read it if your brain's incoherent. You can't read it if your heart's incoherent. And so the more coherence and order you have, the more the experience gets enriched, because you can't read that information unless you're ready for it. That's the point. So as people start getting through this and they start having very profound moments, and they're now opening their heart, and they can sustain heart coherence, and they know how to create brain coherence. That's the formula. And now they have a laser. They have coherent light and information that can read information that exists beyond the senses. And the pineal gland, once activated, will transduce it into profound imagery. And whether you see it with your eyes open or your eyes closed, doesn't matter, because it's more real than anything you've ever experienced.
Let's have a small pause here. In the next part, Dr. Joe is going to talk about his research about the 4 states of matter. Listen carefully. This is very important.
And so I started researching, and I found that there's 4 states of matter. There's solids, there's liquids, there's gases, and the biggest, most abundant form of matter, what's called plasma. And plasma is when you have a negative charge and a positive charge, and they haven't formed an atom yet. So if you have a negative charge and a positive charge, then you're going to have an electrical current running between the two and a field around that current. And the universe, really, stars connect through plasma. Everything connects through plasma. So when you start seeing these complex patterns, it's an impression from that plasma that's being pressed into 3-dimensional reality. And so if you take 3 stones, right, and you drop them at the same time into a plate, and you freeze the water in the plate, and those 3 stones fall, and they start producing concentric rings, and they start interfering with each other, you're starting to get a complex pattern, right, of interference. If you take a light and you shine it through that frozen piece of matter, when you shine the light through it, when the light shines through it, the laser shines through it, you will see the appearance, a hologram of those 3 stones projected out into space. That's exactly how reality is. So then, reality then is a projection, right? And so then when you study matter, it's not matter that's emitting a field. It's actually those complex patterns that are creating matter. So then you don't change the tumor. The tumor is the effect of the pattern in the field. Change the field, you change matter. So teaching people how to do that, when they change the pattern in the field and it starts to appear as change in 3-dimensional reality, the illusion is everybody's been trying to change matter. And so it's not that. So
exciting, yeah.
Yeah, so it starts changing the way you see things, right? Because disease then is an incomplete pattern. It is a fractal pattern that's lost order, that's lost coherence, that's lost syntropy.
That is fragmented, can we say?
You could say it's broken down. It's disorderly. It's chaotic. You know, I don't know, you can use the example of Emoto's crystals as a good example. When you see gratitude, you see those beautiful geometric patterns. When you see anger, when you see pain, you see this weird pattern that's not solid. It's not coherent. So then why not practice brain and heart coherence? Because you're creating a lot of order out of disorder. And as you do that better and better, and you're functioning from a different consciousness, you'll begin to interact with information that's beyond your senses. Now, I don't know how to explain this, but it's the side effect of a change in energy. And all of a sudden now you're functioning from a different energy, a different frequency, a different level of mind. And now you have access to information that is transcendent of your senses. And I don't know if you see it, perceive it, it doesn't matter. But all of a sudden you realize, wow, there's more to reality than I've actually thought. So then when you see those patterns, you know that you're connecting to information. Just relax, because it's going to take you for a ride, and be ready, because it's not going to be anything you expect. If you can expect it, it's the known. It's going to be a little bit outside of the familiar. And many people, they'll say, oh, I want the unknown. You know, I'm excited about it. When it comes, they're like, whoa, I don't know if I like this, because you have one of 2 choices when it happens. And we've seen this on and real-time brain scans. Person's having a transcendental moment, and it's so outside their understanding that they freeze, or they react, and they go from that theta brainwave pattern right into beta, and the event is over. They fell out of it. They're back in their neocortex. Other people, it starts to happen, and they drop into delta, or a low-level theta. They're surrendering. They're letting their body fully go, but their mind is, the energy in their brain is off the hook, but their body is resting and sound asleep. And now, in that moment, there's no impedance. There's no resistance from the body. They're trusting completely. Now that is the moment that we all wait for. It's just that a lot of people, when they finally have it, and I've done that in many of my meditations. It's so outside of the normal, it's too much. But then you come back and you say, damn, God, I want to do it again. Next time I'm going to surrender a little bit more. I'll let go a bit more. Now you're back in the game.
Let's have another pause here. In the next part, Dr. Joe will talk about his future plans, about his workshops, and what he's going to do in his workshops. Listen carefully, this is very important.
Now, we have a lot of physicians now and researchers that are going to be partnering with us in the next 6 months, 9 months, and we're going to be doing all kinds of wonderful measurements on our students. And again, measuring protein markers and measuring different proteinomes and actually showing what genes are regulating to kind of fill in the gaps along the way. So we got a lot of research ahead of us. We're publishing some really good papers. We're getting better at our coherence healings. I want to ultimately wind up in children's hospitals, children with different health conditions, and I want our data to be so good that we can say, just give us your children. We don't want anything. We'll never touch them. We just want to help. And if we're at 50% or better, because other people have been healing in this work, I think we're going to make a big difference in the world. The universe only gives us what we think we're worthy of receiving. So a person's in a state of grace and worthiness. Doors open. Like, let's show you. I mean, there's a lot of experiences right now between where we are in three-dimensional reality and our journey back to the zero-point field and singularity. And I would say that I would limit my experience of all those possibilities if I had a judgment on how I thought they would happen. So I just keep staying open. I keep practicing the formula.
As neutral as possible?
Yeah, I don't try. If they're sometimes, I don't really, if they're not there, I don't see them, then I get what I get. Because I see other crazy things too that are pretty cool. So you can't stop thinking about it. You're not thinking about the news. You're not thinking about buying anything. You're not thinking about your friends. You're just running through this event over and over again and trying to make sense or meaning out of it. Now, this is an important process because as you contemplate the experience and you review it, you're broadening the neural circuitry in your brain. You have to say what just happened. And so as you begin to review it, as you begin to repeat it, and you begin to experience it, and you start associating what's just happened to you, well, you keep firing and wiring those circuits, and then you start thinking about if it happened again, what you would do differently. Now you're priming your brain. You're installing the circuitry for the next experience. So you find yourself in your moments not thinking about Justin Bieber or whatever. You find yourself thinking about that whole uncommon moment, and your brain is preoccupied with the divine. And if you keep the divine on your mind long enough, you're going to become it sooner or later.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for your time here, and thank you for daring to do this interview here a bit different. I really, really appreciate that. I know you're onto so many things. Are you preparing a next book? I mean, what's the future like? Or you're just opening up to l'inconnu?
No, I mean, I always hold back from saying that I'm writing anything. We're publishing a bunch of papers. I actually do the opposite. I love to be tired and silly. I like to be tired and happy. When my body is so tired that I can't even think anymore, but I'm kind of in between worlds, and I'm happy, I'm loose, and I'm free, and that's when I start gaining access to information. So I don't really judge how it comes. It doesn't matter to me. fact is that if I'm getting it, I know that that's where we need to go. And so
Trust in the process.
I trust a lot. I trust a lot. So I'm not afraid of that. I'm not the type of person that ever talks about it. I never spent a lot of time thinking about it. But when I started to perceive it, I knew that I had to pay attention to it. And now it's not just me.